Oh, it has, so, believe me, when I got home, that's the first thing my wife told me. She said, you need to do something with that sign. I said, and we had just had them out before that, but it's a software glitch. But it's supposed to be fixed, so we'll find out.
All right. Yeah. Expensive.
How do you do?
Can I keep a copy of this for April?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
My ex-best friend took her and she lost so much weight. She turned me away.
Well, Jim.
I have to tell my girlfriend about that.
So have to call your senior worst.
Yeah. I take her. Did you see the, you ever watch the Douglas Catch? The guy died. Yeah, the ship hand was 59 years old, I think. He had, he had gotten appendicitis attack on the ship, and they didn't give him proper medical attention. They ended up finding a tumor inside the appendix. And yeah, he just passed away. It was on the news today. Yeah. Good thing you're in the business. Good thing you're in the business. Oh, yeah? Did you see over the weekend where the mother and two kids drowned? She sang at my church. Oh, it was absolutely terrible. I know. No kidding. That's the dumbest law they ever made. No how. I mean, look at, what was that actor? Gary Busey. Hasn't been around since that. He's been in this. Yeah? Yeah. Sad. So sad. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you see that one post on Facebook?
Ladies and gentlemen, it is 6 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge Ms. Bigger, roll call, please.
Harrington.
Here.
Perkins.
Here.
Musgrave.
Here.
Brandon.
Here.
Kinnaman. Kyer.
Here.
Delaney.
Here, we have a quorum. If council recalls, Mr. Kinnaman notified us in advance at our last regular meeting that he would be absent for this special meeting as he is out of town. I'll entertain a motion to excuse him.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Brandon, support by Perkins to excuse Mr. Kinnaman. Ms. Bigger, roll call vote, please.
Perkins.
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Brandon.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
Kyer.
Yes.
Delaney.
Yes. Motion carries. Consent agenda. There is only one item under consent, which is agenda approval. All items listed under consent agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the village council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and discussed separately immediately after consent agenda approval in its normal sequence on the regular agenda. What is the pleasure of council?
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
Motion by Brannon, support by Musgrave to approve consent agenda as presented. Ms. Bigger, roll call vote, please.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Brandon.
Yes.
Harrington.
Yes.
Kyer.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Delaney.
Yes. Motion carries. Public comment. Members of the public may address council once recognized by the chairperson. Comments are limited to a maximum of 4 minutes for items not on the agenda. Council may extend this time by up to an additional 4 minutes by a majority vote. For items on the agenda, comments may be made after council discussion prior to council vote. Prior to addressing council, members of the public will please state their name and address for the record. So we have only one item on the agenda under new business, and that is the consideration of the approval of council action request to purchase a 2024 Spartan top mount fire truck. Public comment at the beginning here is for anything that is not that. Mr. Clark.
Jim Clark, 314 Hadley Street. Here we are doing business as usual. Last year, I was horrified when I found out that virtually all the village staff get 60% or approximately 60% of their salary out of the water fund. At the time, I thought that was illegal. I have since found out it's not illegal. It's ill-advised. There are some guidelines for it, but it can be done. And it's also my understanding we're now buying 3 new police cars out of the water fund. And our water bills went up 2% this year. And I'd like to remind people that it wasn't long ago we voted down additional millage, but apparently using the water and sewer funds gets around that. Trying to borrow your way to financial stability is ill-advised. The cities of Detroit and Flint tapped into their water and sewer funds, couldn't pay them back, and ultimately went bankrupt. The same thing may well happen here. I would like to suggest that the committee of 3 council members that have been identified to do a job search for a new manager, and I guess clerk since they're leaving together, which seems a little suspect to me, but whatever. I'd like to see a couple community members added to that group, and I'd like them to start working immediately since the first of the year should be the deadline. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Is there anyone else for public comment? Hearing none, seeing none, there is no old business. Item number 1, the only item under new business, consideration of the approval of council action request to purchase a 2024 Spartan top mount fire truck.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President and Council. You have before you my council action request, which has some detail listed in it. At this time, Chief Watson is going to approach the podium, and he has just a brief presentation as far as need for this piece of equipment. And then when he's done, then I'll talk just a few minutes about financing options.
So good evening, council. First, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming out on this Tuesday as a special request. To me, I have about 4 more classes left in my paramedic program, and I'll start visiting these meetings routinely starting in September. So I appreciate you meeting that request. I'd like to start off with this PowerPoint presentation, and as you pulled into the driveway this evening, you hopefully had the chance to take a quick peek at the 2024 Spartan top mount pumper. This truck is pretty unique. It's one of only a few in the state of Michigan that are ready for delivery as we sit here today. Most of the lead times are anywhere from 1.5 years to 3 years out. So we were fortunate enough to be able to gain access to this truck and hopefully be able to move forward and park it in the bay. A couple of the big takeaways that I'd want you to see on this slide here is the minimizing downtime. So right now, our fleet consists of a 88, a 99, and an 04. And those trucks, as you know, are substantially antiquated, outdated. The lack of performance is very challenging, not only for me as the chief, but for the staff that are here this evening. Another big takeaway is the reduction in maintenance costs. I can tell you that due to some activity you've seen in council packets, that the ladder truck did start on fire inside the station bay about 2.5 months ago. We just got that back about 2 weeks ago, and the bill for that was about $13,000, which hopefully will be covered by insurance. Most importantly is the visible commitment. And when the community who doesn't necessarily know our day-to-day operations may not realize that when we get toned out for a structure fire or a medical, it can take anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes just to get that first apparatus out the door due to its age. It's got to build up oil pressure, it's got to build up air pressure, and as we all know, in our line of work, time is of the essence. Seconds count, minutes devastate a scene, which just adds added pressure not only to my officer command staff, but the individual firefighters that would respond. It's a long-term investment. That truck out there in the parking lot can handle a wide range of emergencies. Those emergencies can range from PI, structure fires, down wires, CO alarms, mutual aid to our neighboring departments who rely on us to be able to provide an apparatus that can not only get our firefighters to the scene safely, but also help those neighboring communities with the support that they are asking for. Reduce risk of equipment failure. With a brand new truck, you have warranties that come standard with these trucks, and you have less chance of the worst case scenario happening on that scene. Is the truck, some of my staff has came to me and wondered if the truck is even going to make it to the scene. I know on 4th of July, I personally responded in one of our engines, and as I was en route to a dumpster fire at McDonald's, the siren and the lights completely went out and now turned that emergency vehicle into a pedestrian vehicle, as we would say. Boosting morale. 20 years have gone by since the community has made an investment in the fire department of this nature. Not only does it boost morale, but it provides safety for council and the citizens. of the lack of a lawsuit because of equipment failure on a fire scene due to apparatus that is outdated per NFPA standards. Ensures to the community continued protection and readiness. When they see this truck coming down the road, they're going to know that that's state-of-the-art equipment responding to their house that's on fire, their down power lines that are in their front yard, their CO alarm that's going off, additional support on a medical with a CPR in progress. That protection isn't as much realized to us until we need it. And when we need it and there's a delay or there's a failure in equipment, the person that takes the brunt of that is myself, and I have to stand in front of you and explain to you why that equipment failed. Community confidence reassures residents that safety is a top priority. There's nothing more than the staff in this room right now that when they hear those alarms come on, that they're responding to your residents, your friends' residents, your neighbors' residents with utmost training and preparedness to respond to that scene in a professional way to mitigate whatever hazard may be in front of us. Positive impact on community ISO ratings and potential savings. One of my big goals is the ISO rating. ISO rating is for businesses and residents of the community. This rating right now, we're currently at a 3. We just missed a 2, and that was due to some lack of training that happened during the COVID pandemic. While our staff was out providing the necessary relief of COVID and the pandemic, we were unable to meet some of our training requirements and prevented us going from a 3 to a 2. With this new apparatus, I am not only confident that we'll go from a 3 to a 2, but my goal and drive, and the firefighters in this room, is to go to a 1. We will be one of the only volunteer fire departments that is an ISO 1 in the state of Michigan. Some of the advanced safety features, not only emissions, safety alarms, safety bells. If any of the doors were open, anybody's seat belt's not buckled, this truck will not engage, it'll not go in gear. Which also provides satisfaction as you as council members knowing that when that apparatus leaves the facility or leaves the building, that those firefighters are protecting not only you, but themselves. Improved operational efficiency. This truck is ready to go right now, 1,000-gallon tank, and is ready to perform. It would outperform all of our trucks in the station 3 to 1, just with its abilities of pumping capacity and ready to go-ness as being fresh. Supporting firefighters. By your decision tonight, not only are you supporting the community and the people that call 911, but you're supporting our firefighters that are in the room. They're more confident when they have reliable state-of-the-art equipment. They know when they get in that truck, it's going to perform to its expectations, which reduces stress. I'm not sure if if you know a firefighter or if you know a first responder, but some of the stress that we bring home on a day-to-day basis, performing CPR on a patient, car accidents where there's a death, walking into a home where somebody's been deceased for several days. These are things that happen in our community on a monthly basis. These individuals in this room bring that home to their family every day. Knowing that they can get in an apparatus that only brings pride to them, but knowing that they can do their job to the utmost capacity helps with reducing that stress. But more importantly, we're going to be in compliance with the current safety standards of NFPA and the federal government. I conclude with just a short little quick PowerPoint. You also have a copy of it at your desk. I'm willing to answer any questions that you may have moving forward.
Hi, Chief Watson. I know that you mentioned it has a 1,000-gallon tank and it outperforms your other trucks 3 to 1. Does it have more water? Does it hold more water than the other trucks hold? And how much more does it pump than the other ones?
So great question. It's not so much that it holds more water or pumps more water. The trucks that we have now currently have holes in the tanks and leaking. So when we respond to the scene, we have 1,000 gallons showing up to the scene, not 750, 450, whatever it may be. You know, our crews, the first thing they do in the morning or at shift changes, fill those trucks to the top. But throughout the 12-hour shift, we lose several gallons. So with that, and as far as pumping, right, it's a brand-new pump. We get these trucks tested annually for pump testing, and that puts those parts and pieces to the extreme, year after year after year. When this truck goes through its pump test, it's never gone through that pump test other than at the factory, whereas it's ready to go. It hasn't been stressed, it hasn't been strained, it hasn't been through the day-to-day operations year after year after year. So that pump is brand new, fresh, ready to go, and is under a warranty.
So a new tank then would pump at a greater rate and be able to deal more efficiently with a fire?
And provide more water, right? Because it does take our staff a few minutes to get that hydrant hooked, get it hooked to the truck and flowing water. That initial 1,000 gallons is for us if you had a trapped civilian inside. That water is getting our crews in that building with that reserve tank until we can get that water replenished back into the truck, which also comes back down to time in essence.
Mr. President, can I make a request that we actually go out and look at the fire truck? I myself did not get the opportunity to do so, and maybe Chief Watson could show us the truck.
I am not opposed to a field trip.
I think at an appropriate time before we take a vote, we can
Okay.
certainly do that. After
Okay, great.
Perhaps after we finish discussing.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Perkins?
Yeah, we can take a recess before the vote and put a time on it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Chief, I believe I read where you were going to sell one of the other trucks to offset some of the cost of this new truck, potentially.
Yes, ma'am. So I met with a company out of New York on Friday. Excuse me. They ran it through basically an auto trader, which is for fire trucks. And he quoted us $55,000 to $75,000, where they take 5% off the top for part of the facilitation of the sale,
That's a fair
which would
price.
come back in. For a 20-year-old truck, that's an outstanding price. But that just shows the dedication and perseverance of our staff here to keep this truck up and running to the best of our ability.
Thank you.
How long is this truck actually warranted?
So it has several components to the warranty. It has a lifetime warranty on the tank, which is a big takeaway for me, knowing that all three of the trucks right now are currently leaking. The big other one is, I believe it has, and if you don't mind, I have Chuck in the audience today. Chuck is our salesman with Spartan, and he may be able to kind of help me out along with the warranties.
As far as the warranties, the truck carries a 2-year bumper-to-bumper.
Yeah, sir, you approach the podium, please, so everyone can hear, including people listening online.
I apologize.
Thank you
My
very
name's
much.
Chuck Legola with R&R Fire Truck Repair out of Belleville, Michigan. We are the dealer that's working with Chief Watson. As far as the apparatus goes, it has a 2-year bumper-to-bumper warranty on the complete truck. The pump is a 7-year warranty on it. The plumbing is a 10-year warranty on the plumbing, on the pump. The tank is a lifetime warranty as long as you own the vehicle, and the electrical system is a 4-year warranty.
And do you offer extended warranties?
I apologize.
Can you speak up, Paul? I'm sorry.
Do you offer extended warranties?
They can be purchased at an additional price, yes.
I mean, I run a print shop and I have a $150,000 printer. And I know that it's very important to keep your stuff running. And I would say that yours is about 10 times more important than mine. I would say that a fire truck is much more important than a printer. My printer was $150,000, and without an extended warranty, it can nickel and dime you.
Generally, most people, when I say overall in the industry, the only thing that they will do if they do extend the warranties, normally the warranty that they extend is the bumper-to-bumper warranty. I can get you a figure on that. The next step up from 2 years would be either 3 years or go the whole way up to a 5-year extended warranty.
So
on
5
that.
years is probably about the limit.
Okay.
5 years is max.
No, no, not on any, most manufacturers will not extend further than a 5-year bumper-to-bumper warranty. That's usually the max that they will do.
I'm sorry, what did you say the 7-year covered?
The
The 7-year warranty, what did that
The
cover?
7-year was on the pump, ma'am.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, that pump's manufactured by Waterous out of Minnesota. They've been in business since the mid-1800s, building fire pumps, so it is a very well-known and respected fire pump that is on the truck.
Thank you.
All warranties on that will be handled by R&R. I explained to Chief Watson, all he needs to do is call our facility. We have 7 road service trucks that are on the road every day. Unless it is a major problem, it can be, 99% of the time, it can be handled in the station as far as a warranty problem. And we will schedule one of our warranty guys that are all ASME certified to take care of that warranty on the truck for you folks.
Thank you.
Do you sell new trucks or do you sell used?
We broker used trucks, but I will say, as far as brokering used trucks, the trucks that we take in, we normally pursue and selling to Chile and Mexico and places of that sort. That when we get a 20-year-old truck in, it's usually pretty well, it's used, it's lived its cycle.
There's
I can
probably
say
a
that.
higher interest rate. Buying used or brokering used would probably be a higher interest rate.
You see very few used or brokered trucks. There are several brokered people. Brindley Mountain does nothing brokering
I
trucks.
think his question was interest rates on used trucks versus new.
Oh, the interest rate on the used truck is going to be substantially higher. It's going to be generally the same as buying a used vehicle today. Yes, I'm sorry. I have problems hearing, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Chief Watson, how does the price of this truck compare to the average of newer fire trucks?
Great point, great question. So some of the trucks that we quoted out, this truck here, Chuck offered 2 different versions. One, the one you see today, and another one that was about $25,000 cheaper. The main difference was the catwalk, and if you guys decide to go out and look at it, the catwalk is right behind the cab and allows the firefighters to go up on an elevated platform and operate the pumps. The huge benefit with that is when you're on that catwalk or that platform, you now have 360-degree visual of that entire scene. Whereas our trucks today are operated on the driver's side pump panel, which if you pull up to the scene, the fire's on the passenger side, you now are obstructed by that truck of any kind of visual communication or fire ground operations that may be happening. So this also adds to firefighter safety with this. So to answer your question, we are right in the ballpark. Some of the trucks I looked at that I didn't even take to administration were 750, 850 and beyond. I thought that this truck, for what our needs are, hit a lot of our check boxes. And I wasn't the sole individual that made this decision. I brought in my command staff. They are very seasoned individuals. Some of them have been with the department for over 20 years. Brought them, we sat at the table, we went through probably 15 different trucks and looked at what is the best, not only for the community at a fiscal rate, but still provided the needs of our department. And this is the truck that we chose, which was one of the cheaper of the few, but a little bit more than the cheapest that they sell. And the big difference was the catwalk. I thought for the $25,000 difference, you can't put a price on that. Accessibility of visual aids.
Chief, as we stand today, before taking this vote, would you say that we are behind schedule, on schedule, or ahead of schedule as far as replacing our fire engines goes when compared to similar communities?
Great question. You know, some of our neighboring communities will look at Springfield just received 2 brand new engines. North Oakland's received a few new engines in the past few years. Our last engine was purchased in '04. I would say we are well behind the purchase of any kind of new apparatus.
And what could be the implications of not replacing one of our engines? Not worst-case scenario, but something that's
We arrive on
realistic.
scene and we are unable to flow water. And now we're waiting on our neighboring mutual aid jurisdictions or a second apparatus from our station to get to that scene. But when it's your house, your friends, your families, or you have a loved one or an animal in there, you can't put a price tag on that. And I've had several discussions with homeowners or loved ones and had to explain to them a loss of life. And it's one of the most challenging, difficult positions I've ever been put in. And with this new apparatus purchase, it puts us in a better position to respond to the community needs and requests.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
How many emergencies per month do you say that this truck will go out on?
So we average anywhere from 40 to 80 a month. Of those 40 to 80 calls a month, I would say 10% of them are fire related. As a normal standard, before our trucks got into the condition that they're in, we would pull an ambulance and an engine to
So
all.
you're calling this engine on all of these trucks?
Yes, ma'am. It not only provides a vehicle for manpower, but also has an extensive amount of tools and assortment of equipment that may be needed during the hazard that we're encountering.
In your opinion, do you think that this, this is a stupid question, but I think it should be out there.
Thank you, sir.
In your opinion, do you think this truck will save lives?
Oh, absolutely. There's no question. I hope I'm never put in that position. But there is no question, not only will it possibly save lives of the community, more importantly, it could save lives of our fellow firefighters that are in this room, just due to its safety features and its capabilities.
I have another question, but this one's more towards administration. What is our fund balance?
So, Ms. Kyer, if you guys are done with me, I'm going to delegate financials to Mr. Walker, if I have no other questions for council.
Thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you. Appreciate your
Mr.
time.
Walker?
So our last audited fund balance was just over 1.4 million in fund balance spread out over different funds. It's designated for different purposes, although council can undesignate it from those other purposes and use it for anything that you would like. Pre-audit, we think that that fund balance is going to be adjusted by Plant Moran to somewhere between $900,000 and $1 million, primarily due to the construction of this building. So there still is going to be about $1 million in fund balance. And so we know, I know you're not to this question yet, but it was going to be part of my presentation, is we have the money where we could pay cash for it. We just don't think it's wise to do that, to drain the fund balance to that point. And as I talked with all three of the financiers who I got proposals from for financing, all three of them currently or have in the recent past financed fire departments and police agencies for vehicles for that exact same reason. The municipalities, they don't want to drain their fund balance. And so this financing of this type of equipment is not uncommon at all.
I just think it's important too to know what's in our savings and what
Sure.
we're spending, because when you put the cost of it plus the interest, we're talking $1 million.
Yes.
Mr. Walker, did you want to give your
I do.
portion of the
I
presentation?
do, thank you. So Chief Watson, thank you for the presentation. I think it was, it's been a few years since I've been involved in the fire service personally, but I learned some things from the chief tonight too, and so I appreciate that. Certainly, I appreciate the work of all our men and women that work in the service. I think one important point that was referenced, but it wasn't really hit on, was while a new apparatus of this type will provide more efficient and better service to the village. It also provides that same exact service and safety to the surrounding communities. And so when NACVA calls for manpower from Holly or Springfield or Groveland or Fenton or Grand Blanc, which happens on a regular basis, I mean, they expect and they deserve to have the best equipment respond also. Now, in saying that, I'm not saying that our equipment puts anybody in jeopardy, because it doesn't, but new equipment, what it will do will just make us better at what we do and safer at what we do, which is important. So I spoke with representatives from the State Bank, from Community Leasing Partners, they're out of Pennsylvania, and from Huron Valley State Bank. And like I said, all three of those institutions currently do municipal financing just for this purpose. I'll get into the proposals that I think best suit our needs in just a moment. But as you saw from my council action request, the question always is, well, how are you going to pay for it? And there's no question, it's a substantial commitment from the village, but I think it's a doable commitment. And so, depending upon which option the council chooses, you know, it's going to be around $65,000, give or take a little bit, on an annual payment for 15 years. And at the end of the 15 years, then of course you have the accrued interest, and Ms. Kyer, you're absolutely right, it brings the total to over $1 million. But that is the cost of doing business. I think that it's reasonable under the circumstances. The revenue streams that I look at in financing into the future, the main one would be from our marijuana dispensaries. Now, whether a person wanted a marijuana dispensary in the village of Holly or not, you know, some did, some did not. But I think it's undeniable that now that they're here, our job, my job is to recommend what I feel is the best use for that money. Your job is to allocate that money to what you feel is the best use for that money. In my opinion, the best use for that money is to update our fire department in its most important piece of equipment. So we know that Stash Ventures, who is also known as Cloud Cannabis, that's the dispensary that just is working with Chief Watson in his role as building official when he changes hats, of finalizing plans to begin construction. They have a commitment of a minimum of $50,000 per year to come to the village to be designated for use by the council in any way that you please. Now, there's not a building up yet. And Stash Ventures, they just completed all their transactions in February and March of this year. They've already written us checks. They've already paid $50,000, which is in deposit with the village. And they designated that for fire engine, because when we talked, they just said, what's the greatest need that the village has? And I said, well, council has the discretion on what they're going to do with the money, but in my opinion, the greatest need is fire engine. And so they did that. So that's on the memo line of the check. Doesn't mean that you can't do anything different with it, because certainly you can. But so you have this $50,000 already paid this year to offset the first payment, and then going forward. You also have the increase in property taxes that are going to come from both of those new buildings, which is additional revenue. And then in addition, we have Loom, which is our second dispensary, which is already in operation, which has pledged a percentage of their net income every year to the village to be used at council's discretion. And so I think we have more than ample new revenue stream coming in, not even counting the increase in regular property taxes as they occur every year, in order to cover any payment that will come in. And there was some comments earlier, and while I think it's helpful to look at social media comments, I don't bank my decisions on social media comments, but the information is good. And one of the points made on a social media post was that, well, there was a public safety millage a couple of years ago and the people voted it down. And that's true. But that public safety millage was not earmarked for specifically fire apparatus. It was for general operations of both the police and the fire. So did the millage not pass because people weren't really clear on where the money was going? Maybe. Did it not pass because it was going to either the fire department or either the police department, and there's some type of bias towards one of those departments? Maybe. We're not really sure why it didn't. All we know is that the millage was out there and it failed. So I really don't think that that's an indicator, or at least in my mind, it does not sway my decision on whether we should move forward with this or not, because I think it's apples and oranges. I think it's different. The other thing is when I look at this is, if this is approved tonight by council, it doesn't raise taxes. So the prior public safety millage before raised taxes. That's what it was. It was a tax-raising mechanism to fund that. Financing of a fire engine such as this does not raise taxes, and like I said, would be paid for by the new revenue. So if you look at page 2 of my council action request, I have the rates listed by the State Bank, Community Leasing, and Huron Valley State Bank. So Huron Valley State Bank, they're a great lending institution, really reputable in the community. They're doing business right now with a couple of area municipalities that I've spoken with, and their interest rate was 5.71%. The problem with their financing is they would not extend past 7 years. So that means you'd have 7-year payment based on a regular 20-year amortization, but at the end of that 7 years, you have a big balloon payment. To me, that didn't really meet the mark of what we're trying to do. When we look then at State Bank's rate came in at 5.65%, whether you do 0 down or 50,000 down, using the first 50,000 that Stash has already paid this year. And Community Leasing Partners was 5.7%, the same for the 50,000 or the 0 down. And you can see the corresponding payments. From State Bank, if you did the 50,000 down, your payment would be $61,928 for the 15 years with 0 due at the end. If you did the 0 down, it's $66,959.15 for the 15 years and nothing down, or nothing due at the end. My recommendation, after speaking with all 3 lenders and after working with Ms. Bigger on this, my recommendation would be to authorize the purchase, but do it at the 0 down rate. And the reason that I say that is, sure, you save a little bit on interest, but by doing the 0 down, you can use that first 50,000 that you've already had on deposit from Stash to cover that first payment, as well as the other miscellaneous revenue that's coming in from the marijuana industry. And so, I mean, in a nutshell, that's our recommendation from staff, but certainly council has full discretion to choose any option that you would like.
Mr. President, do you mind if I ask the managers the questions?
Right.
Thank you. Mr. Walker, we're looking at just approximately $67,000 a year for 15 years. The investment from Powder Stash is a pledge of $50,000 a year if council were to choose to have that go towards this. Cloud hasn't opened yet. They're behind schedule, but you mentioned they already paid the $50,000 for their first year of 2024.
They did.
What happens if they don't open it?
Well, if they don't open at all, I think you still have the loom revenue that's coming in, and you still have other revenues that are going to increase in the village. I mean, I think that is something certainly that council needs to be aware of, that is a possibility. I don't think it's going to occur, but there's no guarantee until they actually do open the doors. But I think regardless, I think you're in a situation to where we need to do something. In my mind, doing nothing is not the answer. I mean, I think Chief Watson adequately explained the need for new apparatus, and we are way behind on vehicle replacement schedules, as would be recommended by NFPA, which is the National Fire Protection Association. And when you are judged on whether, as a municipality, you're doing what you should do, they use those standards. Now, like I said, our three current pieces of apparatus that we have, they provide adequate service, but they're old. And some of the parts that are needed for repair are not available. They either have to be manufactured or purchased off eBay. And some of the technology on all three of those pieces of apparatus are just antiquated and really not really functionable for today. I mean, just think about your own cars that you drive and the difference in a car now and a car that you drove 20 years ago. I think there's a marked difference between those.
I was hoping you were going to say that Stash was legally bound to continue their pledge for the next 15 years, whether they open or not, but.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I think we'd all like to have that promise, for sure.
So, in regards to Loon, have they made any payments yet? I know you said that they pledged to pay a percentage. Do we have kind of a ballpark figure of what that might look like annually?
Well, so I think it will increase. So this year they paid $30,000. And I think that's only going to increase as the years go by. I don't see usage going down.
Smoke paying for fire, it's clever. I like it.
As well as we're burning down, we might as well keep us from burning down.
So, if Stash were to pull out of Holly, you are suggesting that if we had to pay for it out of our other revenue, that Holly could afford it and we wouldn't go bankrupt?
No, not at all. You know what? We would adjust. You know, I mean, that's life, just like in our own households. You know, we adjust, but there are some purchases that you have to make out of necessity.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I have a question for Mr. Walker. If by chance Stash does pull out, council would still have the opportunity to put someone else in from whoever has applied previously? Would they not?
Yes, council could either revisit the applications that were submitted previously, or you could ask for a whole new round of applications and maybe specify some additional terms as far as contribution.
So that we would still potentially have the funding available for
Yes.
them? Thank you.
Just clarification, you're saying the revenue for the marijuana dispensaries for the state, that you would want to use that as well as this 50K?
No,
No, because that is be allocated towards this bill, correct?
yes. Yeah, initially, but I mean, they're going to continue every year too, which is going to add to the revenues, the entire revenue stream of the village. No, the only revenue that I'm speaking about to support these installment loan payments are the community pledges as well as the property tax. I think that will come in. And as Chief Watson said, he's going to be able to reduce his vehicle maintenance budget by $12,000. I think some of that money can be reprogrammed, and council will have the decision of what to do with the sale of the used fire engine that's going to be taken out of service.
Just follow-up question. In here you say that we have needed this for some time, but we were not in a position to purchase one. Can you explain how we're in a position now?
Yeah, I think because you have additional revenue streams coming in that you didn't have before.
Are all of the dispensaries pledging a percentage of their sales and revenue?
No. So,
Okay, so speaking from a person who used to take care of liquor stores, you go to Warren, you could throw your softball to the next count. And I know they do terrible business out there. If you open 3 dispensaries in Holly and only one is paying a percentage of their proceeds, the chances are those are going to go down.
well, I mean, I think that's certainly possible. So I mean, that was in each individual company's application as far as what they would pledge toward the community. And Loom's pledge was a percentage of their net profit annually. And then Cloud, at the time, theirs was a minimum of 50,000. So, I mean, if for some reason Cloud slash Stash did not open, could council be more specific on what any type of community involvement would be? And I think the answer to that is yes.
Are there any more questions at this time for staff?
No, that was a great question from Debbie and then a follow-up from Paul. So I think Mr. Watson, or sorry, Mr. Walker, what you just said is that if Stash were not to open and we were to review other cannabis stores, that we could legally make it a requirement that they pledge money to our fire department? Or not to the fire department, to this payment?
Yeah, I'm not sure that you can make a strict requirement, but I think certainly that's part of the negotiation or the discussion with applicants of, hey, this is something that's important to the council, and then they have the free will, the ability to pledge whatever they want to pledge.
Perhaps a better way to put it would be, we would make it known that that would be a top consideration in our choosing of who gets an application.
How long,
Is that fair, Mr.
I
Walker?
would say that it would be a consideration. I'm not sure I'd classify it as the deciding factor, but I mean, I think it's something to be considered.
how long is the pledge from Looms to pay a percentage?
There
Is
is
there a
no cap.
contract?
There is no cap on it.
There's no contract and time?
No, and one of the requirements is that they have to honor their pledges by annual renewal. So they renew their license every June, by the last council meeting in June. And as I communicated with both companies, Stash and Loom this year, is the expectation was that their pledges would be taken care of by June 1st, so that council had adequate time to know that their pledges were met.
For clarification too, Paul, Bloom's money has thus far the last 2 years come to parks.
The parks money that Loom pledged? Yes,
Just so he knew where their first pledges
correct.
Okay, so if we put Loom towards this fire truck payment, we would be taking from parks.
No, so Loom pledged $10,000 annually to parks, and then in addition, they paid a percentage of their profit.
Got it, okay.
So I might say Loom also, and Ms. Kyer can affirm that, is Loom also pledged an additional amount of money this year too to go towards parks equipment.
I think before I ask for a motion and support, it would be appropriate to take that recess and go have a look at the truck.
Absolutely.
That'll come after, public comment will come after motion and support and council discussion as usual.
Okay.
Yep.
And can you put a time on how much?
Yes, yep, we will. Does 10 minutes sound
Absolutely.
appropriate to everyone? Right, so we will, it is 6:48 right now. We'll come back right around 6:58. All right?
We don't need a motion to do that?
No, just not to just take a
Just
recess.
take a recess,
Yep.
okay. at me. I'm seeing spots.
It is 6:59. I'll call the meeting back to order. All right. As previously mentioned, I would entertain a motion and support to be followed by council discussion and then public comment. What is the pleasure of council?
I will make a motion to approve, to authorize the purchase of a 2024 Spartan Top Mount Fire Truck from R&R Fire Truck and finance the purchase through the state bank in the amount of, and this is the one that I wanted. Yeah, $666,435.
Support.
Well,
Absolutely.
And authorize the village manager to execute any required documents.
motion by Brandon, support by Musgrave, to authorize the purchase of a 2024 Spartan Mount Top fire truck from R&R Fire Truck and financing through the purchase of the state bank in the amount of $666,445 and authorize the village manager to execute any required documents. Council discussion.
Mr. President, if I can, just before council begins, I let this slip and didn't mention it. There is no payment due this year. That is included in my write-up, so all of council has that, of course. But for anybody listening in the audience or online, there is no payment due until July of 2025. And so that's why I said you already had the first payment, the great majority of it, in the bank through that $50,000 pledge.
Before we move forward with discussion, should I have included the $0 down payment as well in the motion?
You should specify which one you want. Yeah, so you can either amend it or you could make a separate motion.
And additionally, to piggyback off of that, should we include the $50,000 from Cloud Cannabis to be designated for payments, or is that unnecessary?
No, that is not necessary. If council authorizes, that is where we will direct it.
Okay.
April, if you look at the amount financed,
600.
50,000 down, there's a difference.
That's correct.
On your amount financed.
So it's already specified.
So it's already
Okay.
specified. Perfect, okay.
It's already spelled out.
Very good.
Thank you.
Oh, good catch.
Yep.
Council discussion.
I believe in public safety interest. Public safety and infrastructure are the two main focuses of this body, I believe, for our public. I think this is a great move.
I applaud Chief for his presentation and for his due diligence, and Mr. Walker as well, in obtaining his financing quotes. And it is very important, as Jim said, and we need to have functional equipment for our firefighters.
Yes, we do.
They risk their lives every day. They need to have top-notch quality equipment to go along with that, make their jobs easier.
Any other council discussion desired?
If this saves one life.
It's well worth it.
Amen.
Exactly.
I think we reviewed the finances thoroughly. I think due diligence has been done. I think it's in our budget.
Absolutely.
If there is no further council discussion desired, is there any public comment desired? Yes, Ms. Everly.
I'm Sherilyn Everly from 314 Hadley Street. I don't disagree that we need this fire truck. In fact, I agree with Mr. Walker, which doesn't happen very often, It's way overdue and we're way behind. It's way behind because we haven't been managing our money appropriately and planning for it. You're telling me we've got a 20-year-old fire truck and we haven't been putting money aside to replace it. That's not good financial management. I have a problem with depending on raining money from the marijuana dispensaries to cover this. In my budget at home, I tried to slip in a line for Jim that said, found money, and he wouldn't let me do it. It's like going out and buying a car based on the fact that you think you're going to win the lottery. I would much rather that you take money from the fire department, the DPW, somewhere, or the police department, the DPW, find the money within your budget to make the payments, and then if this miracle money appears, then you've got something that you can replace it with. In the meantime, we haven't tied up this miracle money from helping us to fix our streets, fix our sidewalks, do the parks. If you budget for it and the money comes, hallelujah, we're ahead of time. If you don't, we keep our budget the way it is. We're depending on this marijuana money. Should it not come through, we're on the hook for $50,000 or $50,000 plus a year. To me, it's just backwards. You're trying to spend money you don't have with money that you hope you have. That isn't good financial management. I have the utmost respect for Chief Watson. In fact, I probably respect you more than most of the people that work for the Village of Holly. And I am sorry to be in this position. You have worked so hard, and Chief McGee worked before you, and the fact that we haven't, as a community, stood up and made this a priority until now, I apologize to you for that, because it shouldn't be that way. If we're going to run a fire department, we got to pay for it. And we can't just wait for money to fall out of the sky to do it. It has to be something we're committed to or we're not. And the other thing is, I still think there are other options, and I know us old-timers, you hate to hear it, but we got a whole fire department sitting less than a mile out of town limits. How much equipment do we need for 2.5 square miles? I don't disagree that we need the equipment, but I don't think that we should be just, wishing and hoping that the money's going to be there when we do have the opportunity to make adjustments in the budget. And to your point, Mr. Walker, the reason people didn't vote for this safety and security millage was because they wanted you to live within your budget. And if you would have asked anyone, we would have all told you that. And that's all anybody is asking for, is live within your budget. And if the miracle money comes, lucky us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else for public comment? Sir.
Good evening. Matt Weil, 819 Holly Bush Drive, and I would like to speak in support of this purchase. Those of you that may not know, I wear two hats. I'm a village resident, and I'm also the newly appointed chief of NACFA. Is this better?
You're on TV?
Yes, ma'am. So, looking at what has been proposed tonight, this is a good truck. We have purchased Spartan equipment for years. The S180 that's sitting out there is actually a truck we did look at. Unfortunately, we didn't purchase due to budgetary constraints that we were under at the time, and we went with a different vendor. And I got to tell you, I'm sorry we did that. Spartan is one of the largest manufacturers of fire equipment that's out there other than E1. This S180 is a stock truck. It's not frills and spills and all kinds of cool whiz-bang stuff. It's what you need. It's the bare minimum to get the job done and to keep the guys behind me safe. These guys do a hell of a job with what they have, okay? They are daily making silk out of a sow's ear, to coin a phrase. This is something that our community, okay, here in the village and outside, desperately needs. In my other hat with NACFA, a mile down the road, we are looking at the very same issues. How are we going to fund? How are we going to provide for our community and those that we serve mutually with limited funds? Our last several purchases have been financed. It's no secret. The $7,000 a year number is right in the ballpark. We have used the state bank over time. Our last purchase, pre-COVID, Holly Township granted the money, and we actually executed a contract with them to allow them to finance the purchase at a lower interest rate. So again, this is not something outside the norm, at least for our communities here. I get $67,000. That's a big number when you look at it from your own household perspective. But when you're looking at $1 million budget, you know, it is what it is, right? The other thing that I would like to mention too is that, you know, as you move forward with this, again, we're looking at the same problems, is getting that revenue stream in a better place down the road, right? And how do you do that? And that is an internal discussion. Mr. Walker's already, you know, started talking about that. You've got cannabis money coming in. You've got raises in taxes, so that in the future, you can plan for your next truck. One of the things that we have done with some success, again, not to sell NACFA here, but, you know, we have been in a position to not necessarily go with a 15-year plan, but a shorter plan. And we try to rotate the trucks through on those purchases. We are way behind schedule. 2008 crippled us. It crippled everybody. So, you know, we're trying to come up with this revenue stream as well. We've got 2 tankers, a couple ambulances that we need to replace. You know, we're looking over $2 million to figure this out. So, again, I just want to say that I am in support of this, not only as a village resident, but as a neighboring fire department. This is a good truck. 800 days is a long time to wait when you're trying to nickel and dime and, you know, again, make silk out of a sow's ear. The opportunity is here. I think everybody's in favor of it, and I urge you all to approve this and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else for public comment? Seeing none, hearing none, we have a motion and support. Ms. Bigger, roll call vote, please.
Harrington.
Yes.
Kyer.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Musgrave.
Yes.
Brandon.
Yes.
Delaney.
Yes. Motion carries. Do we have any reports tonight?
No report.
No reports? Is there anything further from council this evening?
No, sir.
All right. In that case, our next regular meeting is Tuesday, August 13th, 2024. Meeting adjourned.
You got a new truck! Hallelujah!
Long overdue. Long overdue.
I know you will.
Congratulations.